In this final episode of season 2, we are going to talk about PIE-ology. I want to help you become a PIE-ologist. Well, what in the world is that? I will tell you. I want to share more examples of PIE, which is my recipe for intentional living. And we're going to look at all the different areas of your life and what PIE looks like in each of those areas. I really want to help you essentially bake. I know, sorry. I want to help you bake this sort of PIE mentality. I want to help you study PIE, which is where we get PIE-ology from. I want to help you with this so that you can then start to make the improvements and see the changes and get the results that you are looking for as you continue to live intentionally and be a seeker of intention. I know intention seeking is like, it's a thing. I want to make it a thing. I want to make intention seeking a thing, and by doing PIE, baking PIE into your life, I think we can do just that. So what is PIE? We're going to review that and look at it because I want this just to be burned into your mind. So PIE helps you with intentional living because it helps you set up new habits and new routines and new systems. It just helps you overall be more efficient and organized. I think of it as a kind of big picture way to simplify the way that you're thinking about the different pulls that you have in your life and the different demands that get placed on your time. I think by putting it all into the PIE sort of framework, it starts to help you achieve more things in life. I want you to think about PIE, plan, implement, evaluate, as a sort of operating system in your mind. Okay, I don't mean to get all geeky there, but really PIE is sort of a mindset, and you'll find yourself starting to cycle through this. So we plan, we implement, we evaluate. I want to look at how that fits physically and mentally and practically into your life, because adopting this mentally is really going to help the MO, the modus operandi, in your mind and in your brain. It's going to help you turn off some of the overwhelm. It's going to help you flip from the negative, draining thinking towards the positive, more forward momentum thinking, and then we can start to see that achievement in the different areas of our life. Being able to effectively identify and work through the different plans and implements and evaluates that are happening in your life is going to better help you kind of juggle all of the things, because you'll start to see, as you think more and more about this, you'll start to see how in different areas of your life you're in different phases of PIE, if you will. So you might be planning A while you're also implementing B and you're evaluating C. These different things almost cycle around each other in your day, in your calendar, in your mind, in your physical world as you kind of move through the 7 different areas of your life, which we're going to get into here in just a couple minutes. In this season and last season, we've talked a lot about habits and systems and automating tasks and time blocking and redefining our day and looking at our mission, vision, and values. And I want to take some time now to take all of what we've learned and apply the PIE, to the different areas of our life. So we're going to look at a few of those here, and we're going to study PIE again, because I want you to become more of a PIE-ologist, because when you do, I think that's when you're going to start to see the intentional living magic happening in your life. So I'm going to start first with your family life, and I'm going to share an example of how I used PIE a number of years ago, actually, with my boys as they were on their speech therapy and occupational therapy journey. When we were first referred to an occupational therapist many years ago, when Ryan was 2, actually, so 13 years ago, I was completely overwhelmed and lost, and I had no idea. They were having us rework our feeding schedule, our eating schedule. We had to rework the way that we were playing with him, the way that we were speaking to him. We had to make a lot of changes quickly in order to help him with his speech therapy and his occupational therapy. And I think one of the reasons that I was able to successfully and quickly make these adjustments in our home was because I was able to plan implement, and evaluate through all of this. So I had to plan, and in that planning involved a lot of research and a lot of reading. So I was planning on what I could do in our physical space to make things different. I moved things around in our home. We did a lot of playing with shaving cream and cornstarch and water. So I had a little basket that I set up high on the shelf that I could pull down anytime we wanted to do any of these sort of developmental activities with them. So I planned and I researched and I had everything that I needed. We implemented that. The therapists would give us suggestions on things that we could do to help them with some of their sensory processing issues. And so planning and implementing, I was able to again accomplish this quickly because I planned, I implemented, and then we essentially had a built-in evaluator with the therapists that we worked with. They would evaluate progress. I would also evaluate progress and improvements and things that I was seeing kind of on the day-to-day in our home. Then I could then report that back to the therapist and we kind of worked together on that piece of it. But I think we were able to have such great success with both of the boys, not just Ryan, but one of the other kids had a similar speech and occupational therapy journey. I think that because I was able to quickly plan, research, adapt, and make and implement these changes and maybe do some activities that I probably wouldn't normally have done with the boys because it was important for their developmental process. So I share that as an example of one way that PIE worked in it kind of at the family and just helping the kids level. Another example is learning to read. That's a big journey. Here in our house, we have 2 typical readers and we have 2 struggling readers, if you will. One of the things that we have had to do is just make adjustments about our expectations, about how we do things. But ultimately, I've taken PIE and baked it into sort of the learning to read process for each of the boys at the different stages that they were on over the last couple of years. But we plan and organize the books and readers based on the level that they're at. My bookshelf, the boys' bookshelf really, mine included, are very well organized, so it's very easy for them to grab the book that they need that's appropriate for their level. Of course, then you read, implement, and then when they're learning how to read, especially if you have a struggling reader, you really got to watch closely and look for cues and clues that might contribute and help you understand what is going on with their reading journey so that you can get them the help they need. You know, also, if they're not struggling readers, then it's, do they need to reread this book? Do they need to practice again for fluency? Is it time for them to level up into the next set of books? It's a slow and steady process, but I think that, you know, we see the progress that's made, and before you know it, you have your 7-year-old is reading chapter books. So I think that when we plan, we implement, and we track and evaluate their progress, that's just kind of a big picture reading level. But also, this is, you know, we're recording this in summer reading, or if you do, you know, extra reading throughout the school year, having them keep a reading chart, just something as simple as tracking the number of books that your kiddos are reading, I think is also a really great way to implement, sort of plan, organize, go to the library to get books if your library's open again, and then of course reading them and tracking their progress in terms of growth in their reading development, but also quantity of books that they are reading. So those are just 2 quick examples kind of from family life, if you will, of how you could use plan, implement, evaluate in terms of making progress and, you know, looking for any gaps that might be happening or making changes to the way that you are doing things with your family and with your kids. Quickly, I'll share in the work front, whether this is work for business or volunteer work, I want to share how planning, implementing, and evaluate fits into that. So I'm going to share from the recent past. We released the WisKid cooking curriculum, and I want to tell you a little bit about what that looked like and how we were able to get that to the printer so quickly. So with the WisKid book, we had sort of the built-in videos from the lessons that we did in the spring with the school cancellation, kids cooking lessons, and so I wanted to turn that into a printed version that you could work through at any time, not just when school's canceled or not just in the summer, but it's a resource for your kids to learn how to cook that has the recipes and the shopping lists and all the instructions all together in one place. And so I wrote out the project plan. We started chipping away at it, and I knew in the project plan what needed to happen in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and I think it was probably about 4, maybe 5 weeks that we had everything together and to the printer. And then, of course, we share it with everybody, and then we'll start to get feedback. This is the evaluate part of this particular product, is I want to hear what's working for people and what improvements could we make to it when we do a second run with the printer. So that's kind of an example. We plan it, we create it, we have it printed, we release it, and then we're going to see what we can do to make improvements, not just in the actual book. We actually added a how-to postcard is going to start to go out with the books, not the initial orders that came in, but with the next set of orders, we're including a postcard, basically like a step-by-step how to get started with everything. So we're always looking to make improvements to the products that we have so that it can have the most impact for you and for the kids who are using it to learn how to cook. Let's talk about money, because I think finances is an important thing to discuss, and I want to share how PIE, Plan, Implement, Evaluate, has been working personally right now for me with finances. It's changed over the years. There was a get out of debt phase many years ago, there was a savings phase, and now the last couple years I've been in a different phase where I'm being a little bit more aggressive with investing. So this has required some planning and a lot of research and a lot of reading and kind of keeping up to date with things even on the day-to-day level. And so we plan, we implement, which in the case of investing is make investments, evaluate. When you put your money into an investment fund, whatever kind it is, whether it's a single stock or a fund of some kind, you're going to be watching it, because what do you want to happen? You want to see that money grow. So you're going to be evaluating that on the regular, maybe weekly, maybe monthly. I know there's lots of different ways you can do investing. I know people do kind of daily and day trading. There's lots of different ways that you can make this work. But I think what I want to share here is that in this process, for me personally, it was planning, researching, a lot of researching, a lot of listening, a lot of reading. Then it was implementing, and then it's tracking and watching and evaluating and seeing what things are doing and seeing what type of growth that we are seeing. Because I think that is the most important part, because you've got to be watching and making sure that your investing, whatever your investment strategy is working for you. The same idea could be applied to, debt payoff, let's say. You need to plan how you're going to pay off your debt. What's your strategy? What are you going to do to hold yourself accountable? What are you going to do when you kind of fall off track? You need to plan all of those things. You need to implement this is what I'm doing to pay down this particular card or this student loan. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to plan, you need to implement, and you need to evaluate. You need to see the progress you're making on your debt payoff. Like, make one of those little thermometer charts where you're shading in, you paid off another $500, so you're shading in another $500 on your thermometer chart. That's the evaluating part of paying off debt. And then of course, throwing yourself a massive party, maybe a frugal, affordable one, but throwing yourself a massive party when you have paid off that debt, you have realized that goal and accomplished that for yourself. So those are two examples, the different examples of how PIE would work with your finances. Next is going to be health. And we could talk about a lot of things. There's eating, there's working out. I'm going to talk specifically about my personal experience and adventure with a virus that left me with what is essentially post-infectious rheumatoid arthritis, which is a fancy way of saying this virus did some damage, and damage continues to happen. So I am essentially fighting inflammation on the regular. And over time, the last several years actually, I have used PIE to figure out the right balance of what are essentially vitamins and supplements to help me manage this without prescription medication and without over-the-counter medication. And I've wanted to do that because both over-the-counter medication and prescription medication that I would need for this both have very damaging side effects when you're taking them long-term every single day. So I've been wanting to avoid that. So with supplements, vitamins, and some diet changes, I have been able to, for the most part, keep the inflammation under control, but planning what I might want to try differently, implementing to see how it affects things physically, right? How these guys work and how much pain I might have in my ankles or my elbows. I know this is a little bit personal, but I want to share this with you because I think it's important. It's an important example of how PIE plays out in the long term. So you plan, What can I take differently? You implement, and then you see what kind of effect. This is an immediate effect. I can see immediately whether or not this helps me or not. So that's an example in your health journey. In doing this, I have been able to keep myself off of prescription medicine and get off of the over-the-counter medicine that was already causing problems. So I'm very grateful to have had this PIE and being able to do over and over and over, trying different supplements and fine-tuning essentially, and finding and striking the right balance for what I need to keep things in check. What about your spiritual life and your spiritual journey? Well, I want to share something really simple and practical that changed recently, and this was partly because when we moved, we rearranged furniture in our house, and I now have a lovely place to do my reading every single day. I have a little stack of all kinds of books and journals that are right there, and it just makes it really easy for me to do the reading that I want to do. And it's just a cozy little spot, and I can see the little lizards and squirrels playing outside. You know, it's just my little spot now. And I think that I use the plan and implement, and I love it now, and so now nobody can ever take these things away. They need to stay there forever and ever and ever. But I was able to use furniture that we already had. I actually was looking for a while at some different little armchairs or cozy little chairs, little cuddlers that I could get to put in that particular space. Instead, we just used a piece of furniture that we already had and put a little side table next to it, and voila. Didn't have to spend any money, and I have this perfectly great example. And the evaluate part of this is I already love it and nothing's moving, and it's never going anywhere. So another example would be, do you want to do a different study, or you want to change things up? Are you struggling with something and you need to, read a different a parenting book, or you're just trying to learn something new and you need to make some adjustments to maybe what it is that you're reading or studying in your spiritual journey. So be thinking about how plan, implement, and making adjustments can help you in that area too. Social events, parties, birthday gatherings, backyard barbecues, family hangouts. This will be real quick, but I want you to think about how you plan, implement, and then evaluate. What do you do? What do you need to do to plan the event? Then of course you throw the event. What do you need to do differently? I've actually changed the way that I set up my kitchen for gatherings over the years, because it's just more efficient to put the water and the little cooler that I have over on this part of the kitchen. And it's more efficient for me to move the trash can way far away from the kitchen. First it was in the kitchen, then it was next to the kitchen, and now it's over there. So it doesn't clog traffic, if you will, when there's lots of people coming and going in and around the kitchen if we're having a potluck or gathering or something like that. So be thinking about different changes that you could make for the next time that you host a big gathering, or the next time that you're involved on the volunteer planning committee for an event or a party at your school or your church or whatever. Like, what can you do better to accomplish the goals of the party? I know different gatherings have different goals and reasons, but what can you do there? Finally, vacations, recreations, and hobbies. This is kind of the last little self-care almost, if you will, in this last category. Of course, there is the planning. You got to plan to save if you're doing a vacation. You got to plan to research. You got to plan how you're going to be frugal when you're on the vacation. Is this going to be a getaway, a staycation, an RV trip? Like, what is happening? Also, this is just in and around when you're in and around the house. Like, what activities can you do maybe that are free? All of this involves a little bit of planning. Of course, it involves going and doing and having that fun adventure, that fun vacation, that fun time away. And then the evaluate part of that is, are we doing that again? Should we revisit that particular location? Should we try a different spot? How often are you going to want to take this getaway? Did it fulfill the needs that you had for originally planning the getaway or the new hobby project or whatever it is? So, are you going to do this again or not? Those are some different examples of how PIE looks in the different areas of your life. And I just wanted to share some personal things as well as some other ideas that could help you to better understand how to essentially bake this into kind of your mind and the way you operate. And so that's what I want you to be thinking about. We wrap up each episode with think, feel, take action. I want you to think about what you can do to work towards baking PIE into your mind using the examples that I shared here. And then I want you to feel simplified and calm by by plugging in PIE, it's going to kind of help simplify and sort of almost bucket things out, if you will. I think of PIE in terms of buckets or cycles even. I want you to think about how this is going to help you simplify and help feel just a little bit more calm. You can feel completely calm all the time? No, but I want you to feel a little bit more calm in getting this PIE baked into your mind. Finally, take action. I want you to choose one of these areas, one of these examples we talked about: family, work, finance, health, recreation. Pick one of those and then plug PIE into that and make some adjustments to the way that you're thinking, make some adjustments to the way that you're planning, the way that you're implementing and taking action, and how you are evaluating that particular task or goal. If you haven't yet downloaded the worksheets, you can do all of that, what we just talked about, on the worksheets. You can download all the worksheets for the episodes in season 2 at erinchase.io/podcast. You can do that now. We've just finished up. Fill everything out. Of course, you can re-listen and fill them out then too. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show. We do have season 3 coming. So you want to subscribe so you'll get notifications of when new episodes in season 3 are released this fall. Of course, we would love to hear from you, so you can leave us a review. You can reply to any of the emails that we send to you. We want to hear how the show is helping you reshape your thinking and helping you take important steps on your intentional living journey. And that's it for this final episode of season 2, my friend. It's bye for now, and we'll talk again soon.